Greetings and welcome, my beautiful brothers and sisters. Welcome to another episode of Fenixx Talks. These are going to be my videos where we just really kind of go into some esoteric fields, talk a little bit deeper about energies, life, spirituality, and what's going on here. So I'm not really going to talk about astrology in these talks, and my original intention was for these to be lives, and I will probably eventually make these into lives when I do longer talks, but for now, we're just going to do them as a recording. So these are the Fenixx Talks. And I actually thought about this while I was taking a shower this morning, and this is a topic I really feel is important to talk about, because I feel like this is something that people don't understand that they can do, this power that they actually have, and it's the power of their imagination. And how to actually utilize their imagination to really help and assist them and to deepen their experience and really tailor their experience to be uniquely for them. They say that in order to get into the kingdom of heaven, you have to be like a child, right? The kingdom of heaven was within. You have to be like a child. But what I find to be interesting is that a lot of people try to get into the kingdom of heaven by following a lot of what other people do. The reason why I want to talk about imagination is because on the spiritual journey, on the spiritual path, we obviously have many gurus and many teachers. And there's nothing wrong with that, but the problem is that a lot of times we can turn these teachers and gurus into idols. And when we turn these teachers and gurus into idols, we actually outsource a bit of our power to them. We actually outsource a bit of our creativity to them. And we become a follower. And we all have been followers at some point or another in our soul's development. However, I want to encourage you to employ the use of your imagination on your spiritual journey. What do I mean by that? Say you are a Christian, right? And we can say that primarily your imaginary friend is Jesus. Now, that might trigger some of you because you're going to be like, Jesus is not imaginary. How can you say Jesus is an imaginary friend? Well, I never said that imagination wasn't real. In fact, this life that you are living is an imagination. This world is an imagination, a product of imagination. Everything you see here is a product of imagination. And in order to live out this imagination, in order to experience it, you had to create a vessel that would actually resonate at the frequency of that imagination so you can come in and experience it and what you may perceive as real life. So you can actually imagine things into being. Think about that. Say you have a car that you want, right? You can imagine that into being. In fact, that actually originated as a thought, as an imagination. All things originated as thoughts and imagination before they came into fruition. All things. All things. The TV was an imagination, right? The car was an imagination, but now it appears to be real. But the funny thing is that what happens after the last TV decays? Does the TV go away? Does it not exist anymore? Or does the imagination, the field behind the TV, is that what truly exists? Or does it evolve into something else? Saturn. So yes, if you're a Christian, Jesus is your imaginary friend. There's nothing wrong with imaginary friends. Imaginary friends are very much so real. Think about it. If you have a child, they have an imaginary friend, they play with them, right? They have full-on conversations with them, and they tell you about their imaginary friend. At some age, though, they forget about their imaginary friend. And it's not so much that their imaginary friend doesn't continue to tag along, They just don't resonate at the frequency to really hear them anymore. Because then they start to get blocked out by a bunch of other voices and static. I.e., when you grow up and you hit puberty, you start becoming attracted to the opposite sex. Or you're in school and now it's like you're realizing, oh, I have to do all this studies. I have to get good grades so I can go to a good college, so I can get a good job and impress my parents. I have to have kids, get a house, get a car, find stability. So you don't really have time to really have an imaginary friend. Like I said, if you're a Christian, Jesus is your imaginary friend. That goes for any other religion. If you're a Buddhist, Buddha is your imaginary friend. If you're a Hindu, Brahma, Krishna, Shiva are your imaginary friends. That does not make them not real. It just means that they are a product of your imagination. They are a product of the culmination of many imaginations. The problem that arises is that, as I've said, in order to actually receive entrance into the kingdom of heaven, you have to be like a child. Now, yes, you can have children that believe in these things too, but oftentimes it's because their parents tell them to. So they take on the imaginary friends that have always been here. But what about your own unique imaginary friend? What about your own authentic imaginary friend that just arises out of the creativity and joy of your heart? A lot of times what happens is that people within these walks of faiths, they have this imaginary friend, this being, this teacher or guru, and they're connected to them. But what happens is that it seems, I'm not going to say disingenuous, but I'm going to say it's a little disconnected. Why? Because think about it. There are hundreds upon thousands upon millions of other people who are speaking to that same imaginary friend. And not that that imaginary friend doesn't have the capability to actually commune with all these people, because they do, because the reality is that we're all infinite beings. But they could be spread very thin. It takes away from the authenticity of it. I'm not saying that you can't believe in Jesus, or Allah, or Muhammad, or Brahma, or Krishna, or Shiva, or Buddha. I'm not saying that you can't believe in these beings. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is for you to consider creating your own symbols, your own beings, your own imaginary friends that carry with them certain messages that resonate with you. Your own angels, your own spirit guides. Spirit guides are your friends. They guide you here. But spirit guides are actually your friends, your buddies. So for many people, Jesus is their spirit guide. There's nothing wrong with that. But what if you had a guide that arose from the authenticity expressed within your heart? Then that guide can really, really help and guide you on a level that is intricate to you. This is something that people have been taught out of. This is something that people have, they don't do this anymore. You do this when you're a kid and you have an imaginary friend, right? But people don't realize just the power that comes from having an imaginary friend, because what it is that it's not so much that you are actually creating this being. The being was already there. You are just fine-tuning yourself and tapping into the resonance of that being. You are vibrating on the same frequency of that being. And it's almost like when you meet them, that's why when kids have imaginary friends, it seems so automatic. It's almost because you're remembering. It's like It's like seeing a friend for the first time in such a long time. You just pick up where you left off. Right? Imagine how personalized of a spiritual experience you can have by having your own imaginary friend that arose from you that no one else really knows about. Then a lot of your connection actually won't get clouded. You won't receive as much interference. Because the problem with a lot of people in these walks of faith is that they continue to experience hardships, and we all do, but they don't know how to contextualize that hardship. And then they like to blame it on the devil, who was also an imaginary friend. That's the interesting thing about it. People like to think that the devil is an enemy, when really Jesus and the devil are like best friends. But what happens is that people's connection to these other beings and these gurus and these teachers, they become so clouded and they receive interference. It's like trying to tune into a particular radio station, and they're like a few numbers away, a few knobs away, a few clicks away. They're kind of receiving the message, but it's still a little cloudy. And furthermore, a lot of people outsource their connection to spirit through a particular person, like a preacher, or the Pope, or a shaman. Not that you can't go to these people. Not at all. Because some people do have sort of a predisposition towards connecting to the divine. But that doesn't mean that you outsource your own connection to it. So people receive their connection to these beings through other people. And then how do these people, the people that they receive their connection to, how do they connect to them? Is it personalized? That's what we have to ask ourselves. I'm not saying that you cannot follow these teachers and these beings and these gurus, although I caution you against turning them into idols. And we all have done this at some point, like I said, in our soul's development. But I caution you against that because you're robbing yourself of creativity. You're robbing yourself of having a truly unique spiritual experience. And great magic can be had when you connect with your true guides, with your true friends. Employ the use of your imagination. Seriously, employ the use of your imagination. And you will find yourself creating angels, beings, and guides for you that really understand your situation. And that's because they are you. They are you. They are a deeper reflection of you. Not that these other beings and idols and teachers aren't, but they are a larger reflection of who you are. You know? They're a little bit more fine tailored to you. The problem is that if you think of Jesus as like a shirt that people put on or a pair of pants, people think it's like a one size fits all. And some people are trying to fit into these clothes and they're either too big or they're too small or they're a little itchy. They just don't feel right. People try to fit into them anyways. To each their own. But I encourage you to use your imagination, employ some creativity, and then you'll end up finding your imaginary friends, right? That will actually really understand really, and a bit of overstand, your situation. Truly, it's understand, though. I'm getting into the habit of saying understand. They will truly understand your situation. earlier today, me and one of my imaginary friends, we were dancing. And what that's actually one of our primary forms of communication is through dancing. Uh, and it's pretty freaking awesome. And yeah, he told me to, I say he, but that's because he primarily presents himself as a he, but he told me to come on and make this video. And it's interesting because one of his primary themes is confident self-expression. Confident self-expression. So, that's why I came on here to make this video, because he's kind of telling me that a lot of you all have imaginary friends that really, really miss you. They really miss you. They really miss connecting with you. And that's because you're caught up on other beings and other imaginary friends that are kind of almost like they're kind of hoarding the attention. Nothing against these beings. They have powerful messages. Nothing against these ascended masters. They have powerful messages. But with all of the infinity in this universe and all of the variants, beautiful colors, vibrations, experiences, abilities, it seems like a lot of people are kind of pigeonholed, and a lot of people are hoarded around particular energies, stars, when there's just so much to explore. There's so much of you out there. But a lot of people are kind of hoarding themselves around particular teachers, gurus, masters. And like I said, nothing against these teachers or masters. Nothing against them. But what I'm saying is that you will actually find yourself in a very uniquely fine-tuned and fine-tailored spiritual experience when you begin to be a child. Be a kid. Be innocent. Be free. A lot of your guides, a lot of your friends, compadres, companions, lovers, some of you, terribly miss you. They really do miss you. And it's kind of weird because it's like a lot of these beings they don't necessarily feel emotion like the way that we do, but they do miss you. Now, it's a vibration of they want to connect with you. They patiently wait, though. That's the interesting thing. They patiently wait, but they are longing. They are longing for you. So connect, imagine, remember, feel into, love, embrace. Be a child, be a kid, and have an imaginary friend. I'm not saying, like, you can still follow Jesus and all these other beings and stuff if you want to do that, but there's room for more. Trust me, there's room for more. That is it for this Fenixx Talk. And I'm sure I will touch on this subject more in the future. These are going to be, like I said, more esoteric concepts. And just remember that. And if people think you're weird for having an imaginary friend and stuff like that, if you start telling people about it, which you can if you want to, I'll tell you like mine. Like I won't tell you his name, but he's like a blue lion essentially. So the one that I was dancing with earlier, he's a shimmery blue and silver lion. Bipedal, stands upright. Yeah. And if people think that you're weird for having an imaginary friend, then so be it. Confident self-expression. Confident self-expression. So people are they confidently express that they believe in Jesus and Buddha, Krishna. Why can't you confidently express that you believe and your imaginary friend, your guide, your angel, your helper, your companion, your lover. Thank you.